Hi, welcome to the Rob and Bird podcast. I'm Rob.
And I'm Bird. We're here to bring hope and motivation to those in the struggle. We're in it too. We cannot afford to give up.
We're basically cheerleaders. The road to success will be hard, but we want you to know you're not alone.
All right, well, let's get to it, Rob. What do we have diving into today's episode?
Let's talk about hope, but first, let's get something out of the way. This is our first episode, so if there's any way we can improve, please let us know. We want to be an inspiration to our fellow artists.
Yes, we're basically cheerleaders. No, I am a Bird as well, and he is Rob. We just felt inspired to want to do this podcast into reaching out to other artists, as he mentioned, to kind of get our spirits flowing and get us to creating new content and whatever we want to be, and not hold back on what we fear or what could happen. Because at the end of the day, we gotta not do it. We gotta try, right, Rob? What do you think?
Yeah, that's ultimately it. Like I'm far from the person to say that fear isn't important, but the problem with fear is that it immobilizes people to keep and it prevents people from doing the things that they truly want to do.
I mean, yeah, it's crazy because it's like, especially like the way things are now in our industry, it's getting kind of rough. But and it's not like I haven't been there in that boat. But what matters is that when these things kind of start to occur, and we kind of just start to open ourselves up to the possibilities of creating our own content, and also trying to take on even other types of fields if we need to for the time being. And then until then, on the side, we do what we like to do, our passion, our work. What side project? Is it a short film? Is it a screenplay? Is it growing something in like a garden in your home or somewhere out there to start your own company? Whatever it is, it's something worth thinking for if you're really passionate about it. If you really want to go jump for it. And I know me and Rob, we have our own projects we're working on, and we're very excited to go into it. But more importantly, to kind of be part of the group and understanding that we are part of that struggle too. That we know that we can't afford to give up. We gotta go create something and make something that means value, that brings value to other people's lives.
Whatever it is that you want to do, that you want to bring into this world, uh, you are not alone. Everyone, there's a lot of people that are also looking to create something, and hopefully together we can all inspire each other to bring that light into the world.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be cool, like just to see what people can bring, and it gets kind of, and I'll admit, like it gets kind of tough. Um, but if anything, let's get to it, man. I mean, I want to really talk about some topics that I have. We both were mentioning about for this episode. Making mistakes when we start off. That's one of the things that drops our willingness and hope for the chance to create what we want to create. When we start off, sometimes we'll make even the most common stupidest mistakes, and even a professional would just go like, "Wow, even I would do that." Like this, and it makes you start to feel. It can make you feel like, "Oh yeah, damn, I'm not fit for this," or somewhat. But at the end of the day, it's like sometimes some people have to go through that to realize not losing hope on that and leaning onto that moment of failure as the ultimatum. What needs to be understood is we need to look at that and go, okay, I made this mistake. I want to know what it is that I need to do to improve that, to avoid that issue. And then when you try again, chances are you learn. Some other people, they take it and they know, oh man, now I know what I have to do. They go right away inspired to just jump in and redo this again, even though they spent hours or days or maybe even a month on an experiment or a scene. Um, and it's can be an exciting experience to fail in those moments, because those are those moments where you learn that that's what's the process to gaining that ability or finishing the scene, getting from A to B. it's just, yeah, for some. And even if it doesn't inspire you, that's okay. If it hurts, sometimes that the mistakes can hurt, but you have to kind of just get like those songs, the phrases, dust yourself off and try again, because that's when you are able to get closer to your objective, to what you want.
Failure is not the end of the road. Like everyone has had failures throughout their lives. What like from the very first time you stood up, you failed. Uh, because you have to walk before you can run. You have to crawl before you can walk. And like Bird and I'm sure Bird was the same way. But when I was a kid, I drew stick figures before I started learning to draw realistically. Before I started animating, before I drew any kind of image, it all started from that first moment that I drew that skinny stick figure with the circle head, with dots for eyes and just a just a C for a smile.
What, you use the letter C for damn, Rob? I call that laziness.
It might be.
But sure, no good. No, it's. I mean, I've had similar things experience. Like I drew clumpy. What was it? Clumpy Ninja Turtle drawings. That was like at the back of my parents' car in New York City when I was like, what, 5 years old, and with a crayon, and you just see these clumpy hands and arms, and all I kept thinking was Ninja Turtles. Oh my god, I gotta draw them every day, and I love them and stuff. And that's I was a fanatic for it. But that was where it started for me to draw. And actually, just wanted to mention too, like I don't know what motivated you and stuff, and gave you hope for art in achieving art in a career and writing. But for I would say for me, it was when I first saw animation in Ninja Turtles as a kid. Even when I saw the live action, but when I saw some clips of 2D animation back in those days, um, even crazy enough, Sonic the Hedgehog, that was in the '90s. Uh, I was just in awe, and I wanted to be a part of that world. No pun intended to, well, that movie. But it's like I wanted to create something and see how these artists created that magic. And above all that was the stories and the lessons that were entailed in those animated films and shows. But that's how it started for me, and that gives a sense of like, hey, you know what? I saw my drawing, as crappy as it was. It gave me some hope that I could just that enough to go after it. You know.
For me, there were plenty of things. The first thing that I can clearly remember was Star Wars.
Mm.
Um, because you had this grand world of where you have people going into space and flying around in fighters and swinging their lightsabers around at each other.
Laser
And it
swords.
was a laser swords. It was a grand adventure, and I think that that's what inspires a lot of people is the idea that I can be part of this world.
Yeah, Star Wars is. I'll admit, even when I saw it, was pretty dope. But I unfortunately, the very first thing I saw was Darth Vader's face when Luke's holding him. And I walked into my uncle's apartment. I was just like, "What the hell happened to this guy? What's going on?" But then later, I saw the whole show, all three movies. I was like, "Wow, this is an amazing adventure film."
Well, for me, it was my father was really big into, well, he watched Star Wars. He I remember him telling me that when he first saw Star Wars, it was the episode 4,
Mm.
and he thought, oh, episode 4. How come I've never heard of this movie before? This if it got to 4 episodes, it must be good.
That's actually, yeah, that's a funny one. I mean, and it's funny because I remember when I first heard that it was episode 4, I was like, wait a minute, there's three other ones before this, but then, I mean, it wasn't out until we saw it come out later. I think early 2000s, if I'm not wrong. But and those films were at a different caliber than 4, 5, and 6.
Well,
But
you and I are of different age, because I remember
we talk about. You
when
told me
I
you love all of them. I'm kidding.
when I first saw Star Wars, it was the original trilogy. I'm not saying special editions. I mean the original,
Mm.
before the special
Oh, right,
editions.
right. The what is it? For you, it's Han shot first, and that whole thing.
Only Han shot.
I this is how I mess with Rob because I tell him Greedo shot first. So
That didn't happen.
yeah, I'm
That didn't
just to
happen.
mess with him. And it was terrible. Was that editing looked so short? It was like 2 frames. It almost looks like where Greedo shoots first, and then you edited version. I was like, oh come on, you really squeezed that one in. But anyhow, no, but yeah, this is what it is. And sometimes people forget, like, even in those, this was crazy. If you think about it, those Star Wars films, mainly the very first one, like when Lucas worked on. I mean, imagine how much motivation and hope and belief that this man and his crew had to have when they were first writing from script, like nothing created for it, no concept, to building this world from his ideas and then others contributing to it.
I mean, that's the thing. You look at episode 4. There's there's a reason why most people don't, when they talk about Star Wars, they usually don't go to 4. They usually go to 5, maybe 6,
Mm,
or even the prequels. But 4 is kind of kind of left in the background. And the reason was because it was a start. It was a thing for which uh, got their foot into the door.
yeah,
It was something to start off. And sometimes grand things start with humble beginnings,
yeah.
which is the story
Luke
of Luke
Skywalker. Yeah,
Skywalker.
I agree. I was just thinking that as in the middle of you saying that, because you see, he's this farm kid in Dantooine trying to, he wants to see what's out there, but then once it's kind of cool because once he's out there, he sees the consequences of that choice, the losses that he had to experience in order to find more out there, but also achieve who he wanted to be later on when realizing the consequences of his actions, that sort of thing. And that's how life is in the hero's journey. That's how you grow up, and but you also have to have um that sense of hope in you. And then I mean the film is called The New Hope. Yeah.
And yeah, New
That's
Hope. Yeah,
episode 4, and in itself it's a humble start to him achieving a mission for the rebels, and immediately it echoed amongst everyone that was afraid of this empire. You know, it didn't come from this knight in shining armor situation where he was promising at every level from the start, powerful with no Achilles foot kind of situation. No, it's just, and he went with the force. Like when Obi-Wan tells him, turn off that. Yeah,
use the
turn off
Force,
that
Luke.
stupid box gadget in front of your face and you know use the force. And then he does it, and and I would admit, like when I watched it, I was like, yeah, excited. That feeling of that win for him because all the stakes were, everything was at stake for this mission.
But that's a story that Hollywood created. Surely there isn't any exact real world examples of people coming from nothing and making great grand successes of themselves, right?
What? Oh yes, heck no. Who's ever heard of anyone succeeding with very little and just ideas? That doesn't happen. Okay, of course there has been. We wouldn't have the things we have in this world today without them, without those that chose to take a chance in their abilities and their ideas with hope in them and the ability to believe themselves to make something great for the future of humanity and all of us. And even in the midst of horrible odds, there are always those that are willing to fight for us and themselves, of course. But
I mean, what is an entrepreneur? It's the idea that you can make something of yourself with having very little. There's plenty of people that have startups from almost nothing, and today you hear plenty of stories of people finding success where there are none, and even in the past century, there's
yeah,
examples. It takes work to be successful.
yeah,
Like one of the most famous comedians is a guy named Rodney Dangerfield, and like like anyone who listens to comedy should probably know who he is, but he didn't get any success until later in life, where he just started talking, being self-deprecating about himself,
yeah. Oh yeah, I remember
and
he was saying lines like, "Who? I don't
yeah,
get no
and
respect."
I don't get no respect
I
at
remember. I
all,
never
and
forgot those lines
that
from that guy. They're funny as hell.
that's how he broke into the field when he was so old.
Mm.
Uh, like, in the meantime, there are plenty of younger comedians who are breaking into the industry. This older guy breaks it in with his self deprecation, and people loved it.
Yeah. I mean, but it's also that part of relatability, that on that point, because there are moments where there are people just don't they don't respect you because they don't think they see much in you that you would succeed because they think lesser of you. There are going to be people that way, and it's people like that you can imagine maybe they've gone through those moments, but they persevered. They had the belief in themselves to push on, that they would succeed, even in the midst of those who they may be around succeeding beyond them or whatever. But then they get to that point where they've reached that ability that helps them shine more in the field, and they start to come out, and then people remember that person for opening up on that level. And it's also like, was it Kevin, another comedian, Kevin Hart, he did a skit called not skit, stand up called "Laugh at My Pain," you know, and he makes that's what it is. It's about laughing about his pain, but he also was like he was explaining like example of how him and his brother made their mom go crazy, crazy from their shenanigans, and that she had such high blood pressure or something that she would pass out. She's like, Kevin, I swear to God, and then he goes, and passes out, and but he was just trying to make light of the hard situations that they're with their, with their mom going through what they went through. But the great thing about it is trying to find the more funnier side of things. And they're all relatable to those who experience it. And to those who haven't, will go, wow, that's nuts. But also appreciate that they could see things in a better light of those hard situations that they were able to go past. Um, and it's not easy, but as you mentioned, and this is, as we are mentioning in our episode, it's so vital to have a belief in yourself, and hope for your dreams, hope for a better tomorrow. And it's not going to happen right off the bat, because we forget, when we fail, sometimes we get caught up in the failure again, and we don't see what's ahead, but we it's because of ourselves being caught up in that loss that we can't move forward.
Failure is not the end. Not if you don't let it.
Yeah.
You can always move forward in spite of failures. In fact, a lot of people who are successful have found failure repeatedly, and every time they said, I can learn from this. Next time, I won't repeat those mistakes.
Yeah. It's yeah, those are just like, you can even view them as learning moments, that you have to deal with, because that's on you. And it's like, also like, you can't get caught up in comparing yourself to someone succeeding on something you didn't. There are going to be things that will flip where you succeed at and that person doesn't. and they'll you know what I mean, because that happens in competition. Sometimes some people, they think they're top dog, and then in that field, and then next thing you know, a couple of months later, or even a year later, or later, like in the day, that you were able to circum something quicker than the other person. And it always changes. Winner becomes a loser and loser becomes a winner, etc. Um, but yeah, dude. And I was gonna say, yeah, like when it comes to art and animation, it's like if you get worried about drawing skills, just start drawing some anatomy or perspective. Study your favorite like screenshots of your movies that you love and enjoy watching, and just do roughs. Start drawing, like just draw badly if you have to. It doesn't matter, like because what matters is that you're taking that first step, and over time, as you start taking more of those small steps instead of looking at the long road ahead, your steps become greater and larger because you start to learn at a much quicker rate as you study your work. You're studying everything. The first few steps are not going to be the biggest, but the later ones will be.
I mean, it's the same way with music or sculpture or writing. Like when you first play the drums, for example, like you're not gonna get that beat every time, but with enough practice, you'll start learning. This is the thing about failure is a time where you can learn.
Yeah.
So you learn that you gotta hit the beat at a certain intervals, or it's like the first sculpture may not necessarily look good, and you start learning. Okay, something wrong happened here. How can I fix that? Or uh, or I know that as Bert mentioned, like I write like I started off writing fan fiction, and it I'm sure it wasn't good. I don't really want to look into that, but everyone starts from somewhere.
Yeah.
So take pride in that you started. Actually, that's the thing. Take pride. Look at how bad you used to be,
Yeah.
and how much you will improve in the future. That's one way of looking at it. You can improve. You can be better than you used to be. I know that since I've known Bird, I've thought he was one of the hardest workers, and he's improved quite drastically in the amount of time that I've known
You
him.
really think I was hardworking? I was, I was just being sleepy and not doing anything. No, I'm kidding. No, I did work. I had a lot of risk, but I know what you're saying. Yeah, I appreciate it. And I thought like you were like one of those animators that was just focused and clear cut on his work at our school. And I definitely had an appreciation for that on your end because you weren't like, oh, I'm gonna go out and have fun and all that. And there's nothing wrong with having fun, but you knew what you had to do with a balance, to that. And for me, I just sometimes had an unhealthy work ethic, but I've learned to do better than that over the years. But yeah, like and to mention just briefly, like because I know I mentioned earlier, uh, but the on our end the industry layoffs and stuff. Like I wanted to mention that to try if anyone is looking or feeling or actually feeling like they're not in like they're been taken off the industry because they're not doing so great, or they're not viewed as talented enough or not good enough, to not take that as a way to judge your abilities. You do have to appreciate, as Rob said earlier, your past improvements and pushes, because not everyone that gets brought in the industry is top notch all the time. There are also people that they just have the right connections and they make it. And now that there's been more layoffs, it's just that this industry is having a rough patch, and we all know reasons why. Like there's other factors like AI, but just like many times where there's falls, there's also rises in those falls. I mean, when 3D came out, we all thought 2D animation was done. But then 2D eventually started coming back over time. And 3D was still there, kicking. And then now we have this new stuff like AI. And it's taking a lot of opportunities of what we've seen. but at the same time, it's not something I don't believe that the everyone's going to go. I can't wait to watch the next AI film. I think it will be there, but it'd be more of an assistance versus the artist disappearing. Artists will always be around. If anything, I mean, I'm kind of stubborn. I still want to draw. I still want to have that freedom to create my own content, my own work. Should this all stop me and make me lose hope for the future? No, I don't. I am a little stubborn, but at the same time, I know that I can create something from scratch, an idea, a story, a concept, just like anyone else in this world that wants to do that. In the end, it's up to you to build that hope, and you can do it. No one should no one should ever encompass you from doing it. Just try to find a way to break out of that mentality, if that helps. Um, but yeah, there's always hope out there for our content, our work as artists. You could post it even in an oversaturated social media website, or even like it's like YouTube or Instagram. As long as you put something out there, and it doesn't need to be so frequent every single day where you drain yourself and you burn out. Find a way to create stuff that you can handle consistently. It's not a race.
Not everyone is gonna have that job where they can get into. They can get in. They work. They work, and they will. They have their portfolio. Sometimes you have to take that waiter job.
Yeah.
Nothing wrong with that, but they don't have the time or opportunity to work on it for the entire day. Sometimes you're gonna have to find small times during the day to find your ideas, like write your next song, maybe on your ride to work, or draw something or write something.
Yeah. Or even on the train, wherever you can sit down and draw and be able to create an idea. Um, but that's the thing. And sometimes that's like that can be a blessing in disguise. Because when you start to set a time and goals and deadlines to these things, and based on how long you can get it done, it can be motion comics, it can be comics to animation, storyboarding, or even animatics or tutorial videos. Whatever you want. There's out there a lot of artists doing it, and you could say, yeah, but there's a ton of them, and I'm just another. Not necessarily. You are you on what you can do on your end. No one can copy and mimic exactly how you do your stuff, how you work. And it doesn't need to be the best content in the world. It needs to be your content. You have to remember that. When you create your content, it's out there and it's what your brand is about. And who you want to show yourself, who you're portraying, who you are is you. Um and with that said, it's this can be an exciting time. Yes, there are higher risks. If you're out of work, I have been there. It's not like I can't relate. I've been there several times in this gig economy animation industry. Um, but when I had those moments, I also learned to look at those pockets of open time to sit down and focus on myself and my own content. And it helped me a lot to be better as an artist and as a storyboard artist, an animator, and if that in that sense as well. So I'd say take it, and who knows, you may even succeed so much to a point where you're looking at the industry. Not to say there's something against it, but you may go like, I might not have to depend on this. I have something that's actually building me enough income to live and go further with. You never know until you try it. So I'd say have hope in yourself, have hope in your abilities and what you want to do and what you believe in. You can do it.
You're never gonna know unless you try. That's the thing.
Yeah.
Like, and I think that that's the thing that people. Well, it's not easy breaking out of that mindset of I'm gonna be a failure, uh, but when you start taking that risk and saying I'm gonna try, even if I fail, I'm gonna try. And even if you do fail, even if when I failed, it felt good uh, to fail, to actually go out and do something.
I kind of felt hurt. No, but it's fine. I'm kidding. I did. There were some. I'll admit there were some failures that I was like, I learned something from it, and I realized what I learned, and I was like, oh snap, I just got better, and it felt good. But then there's also the damn, this sucks. I gotta do it all over again. But yeah. But with that said, I mean, I was wondering, we close it for some ending quotes here, or anything else to say on your end, Rob?
I mean, all I've got to say is, I think you are capable of so much. I only I hope that you realize that you are. There's something in you. I'm sure of it. Do you believe that you have that spark within you to do something?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah, thanks, Rob. No, yeah, it's that's the thing. It's I look at this as for my ending quotes, like, yeah, dude, we're in this and we can do it. We just gotta find the idea and the time and just focus and set a deadline, goals. This could be a fun journey, and it's going to be, but it's also going to be rough for others as well. We can't dismiss that. It can be hard, but also it's not impossible to get something amazing done.
In the words of Dr. Fraser Crane, do something. If it's a mistake, do something else.
Hey there, just want to quickly say thank you so much for listening to our episode. It means a lot to hear from you guys, so we'd really like to know if what we're putting out here is helpful in any way. And if you have questions or even points to bring out, please let us know. Again, thank you so much for listening, guys. Please, if you're into it, like, share, and subscribe our stuff. We really appreciate it if you got the time. And all the best. Thank you.
And please, check out Bird's content on his channel. Link will be down below. Goodbye.